SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212 now.
Tonight, Foreign Minister meets ASEAN counterparts. EU extends support to counter extremism in Sri Lanka. A gentle reminder. The US moves to remind its citizens of the travel advisory in place. First of a kind, SLPP goes tech with electronic canvassing. Job safe for another tour. Sports Minister gives OK for coaching change delay. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Saturday the 3rd of August 2019.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා ෆෙයානස් වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ ෆෙයානස් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti marks cream.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Ekanaga. Let's start with your local stories. The Eastern Province Armed Group leader of the banned organisation Jamiatul Millatu Ibrahim and a member of its propaganda team at the Oliville University were arrested this evening. The arrests were made by the Ampara police. Two Islamist extremist groups, Jamiatul Millatu Ibrahim and National Tawheed Jamaat, were banned following the Easter Sunday attacks. Now, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe discloses that the draft bill for the Ruhuna Economic Development Corporation was given the cabinet approval recently. The Premier was speaking at a function held in Katharagama today.
The new two-storey building of the Katharagama Divisional Secretariat was declared open by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today. It was built at a cost of 75 million rupees.
We were having discussions to bring an act for Ruhuna Economic Development Corporation under which trade zones will be established. Private companies have already come forward to join the trade zone, but there were no laws to regulate the zone. Therefore, we were able to pass the draft bill in Cabinet related to the Ruhuna Economic Development Corporation 2 weeks ago. The Ministry of Civil Aviation in Sri Lanka as well as in India are having discussions to develop the Mattala International Airport. There is a limited number of flights arriving at the Mattala Airport now. Therefore, we need to bring flights at least from India to develop the airport. We took over a collapsed economy. That's why we asked for 2 years to revive it. We were accused a lot. No one agreed to give us even a loan to revive the economy. We were able to obtain $1 billion from international markets even after the 21st of April attacks. We expect to get another $500 million from samurai bonds in Japan. Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit today looked into the well-being of those affected by the explosion at the St. Sebastian's Church in Katuapitiya. Setsarana Caritas Colombo organised a special program for those victims at the church premises. The program was presided over by Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit. During the program, His Eminence also distributed financial donations to those victimised by the explosion. The European Union expresses its readiness to support Sri Lanka in countering terrorism and provide assistance in coordinating counter-terrorism efforts. Vice President of European Commission Federica Mogherini, speaking to Minister of Foreign Affairs Tilak Marapan at the sidelines of the 26th ASEAN Regional Forum in Thailand, expressed solidarity with the island following the Easter Sunday attacks.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Tilak Marapana attended the 26th ASEAN Regional Forum held in Thailand yesterday, which saw the participation of representatives from 10 ASEAN member states, 10 ASEAN dialogue partners, 1 special observer and 6 other countries in the region. A bilateral meeting was held between Minister of Foreign Affairs Tilak Marapana and Vice President of the European Commission Federica Mogherini at the sidelines of the event. Mogherini stressed the EU's solidarity with Sri Lanka following the Easter Sunday attacks. She further underlined the EU's readiness to support Sri Lanka in the face of this challenge to help prevent and counter violent extremism and support improvements in coordinating the country's counter-terrorism efforts. Minister of Foreign Affairs also met with his Bangladesh counterpart, A.K. Abdul Momen, Minister of External Affairs of India, S. Jaishankar, and Deputy Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of New Zealand, Winston Peters, during the event. Addressing the 26th session of the ASEAN Regional Forum, Foreign Minister Marapana stressed the necessity for concerted global efforts to counter traditional and non-traditional security concerns, including terrorism, violent extremism and cybercrime. In this context, Minister Marapana underscored the need for a deepened resolve among the ARF participants to overcome these challenges.
Now, with the Asala procession just around the corner, US Embassy in Colombo issued another reminder yesterday of the Level 2 travel advisory in place, which advises US citizens to exercise increased caution when travelling across the island. The advisory noted that terrorists may attack with little or no warning, targeting tourist locations and other public areas. The US scaled up its travel advisory following the Easter Sunday attacks to Level 3, but later downgraded it to Level 2 on the 24th of June. Chief incumbent of the Sunetra Devi Piruna, Venerable Professor Madhagoda Abhetissatera, alleges that there is an ulterior motive behind calls to abolish the executive presidency. Addressing another installment of the seminar series earlier, the Thera cautioned that the executive presidency is all that stands in the way of the country being divided. Also speaking at the seminar, former governor of the central bank, Ajit Nimad Cabral, lamented the government's inefficiency in the economic sector. Taxes imposed by this government during the past 4 years have been increased to 2 trillion. But the debt has also increased up to 13 from 7 trillion. The GDP has only increased by 2 to 3 billion during the last 4 years. The PM recently said that exports have increased. Our exports stood at 11.1 billion in 2014 and the average of exports in these 4 years is just 10.9 billion. They hunted war heroes, established entities such as the Office of Missing Persons and betrayed the country by signing a UN resolution just to gain GSP+. But they couldn't even surpass the exports set in 2014. An economy runs on trust. Our Prime Minister announced that they cannot pay debt. In turn, investors hesitated to invest. A foundation stone was laid for a $3.85 billion oil refinery in Hambantota, but no work in progress so far. They live a lie. The government is now attempting to abolish the executive presidency by hook or crook just to facilitate separatist agenda. We are not fond of the executive presidency, but the reason for the abolishment is that the executive presidency prevents the country from being divided. If it is abolished by any chance and the 13th Amendment remains, the country will be divided. This is a trap set by India. They are trying to slice off the executive presidency bit by bit to implement the 13th Amendment. We have no problem in abolishing the executive presidency if the 13th Amendment is scrapped. Constitutional expert Lal Vijayanayake defends the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, saying it pruned the powers of the executive and empowered the legislature. In doing so, he denies claims which say that the true motive behind the amendment was to shift the centre of power from President to Prime Minister. Addressing a seminar in Colombo recently, Vijayanayake did concede that the 19th Amendment has its flaws, which could pit the President against the Prime Minister. While Vijayanayake largely sees positives in the 19th Amendment, President's Counsel Manohar de Silva only sees a deception perpetrated through the amendment.
This is what Article 43.3 says. The President may at any time change the assignment of subjects and functions and the composition of the Cabinet of Ministers. Once, on the advice of the Prime Minister, a cabinet is appointed, thereafter the President can change the cabinet. So to say that the 19th Amendment in fact remove most of the powers of the President is not correct. The people who promoted the 19th Amendment had no such intention, though they said that in public platform prior to the election. What they did was they brought the 19th Amendment bill but did not propose to amend Article 4. It says executive power of the people including defence of Sri Lanka shall be exercised by the President of the Republic elected by the people. Now, if the government wanted to take away the powers of the president, the first thing that they need to do is to amend Article 4B. Article 4B was not sought to be amended even in the bill, but they wanted to avoid a referendum. What they tried to do was to change Article 42 and 43 and those sections and get the Prime Minister to appoint ministers, to change the composition of the cabinet, to decide on the subjects. Now, what is the purpose? If you want to remove powers being concentrated on one individual, and then you remove it and give it to the Prime Minister, then you have another individual in place of the President. 19th Amendment is a fraud perpetrated on the people. They introduced a section to say, 46.4, for the purpose of paragraph 4, the national government means a government formed by the recognized political party or independent group which obtains the highest number of seats in parliament together with other recognized political parties or independent groups. Now, this national government was the United National Party and one member from the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, the others were within the UNP, and another member from the PDP. So the 19th Amendment was used, and that is the law that we are thinking of keeping. This doesn't bring parliamentary democracy.
After the 19th Amendment, the President cannot dissolve Parliament during the first 4.5 years of his 5-year term, unless Parliament itself requests a dissolution by a resolution passed by a 2/3 majority. This is a major transfer of power from the executive to Parliament. Equally important restriction was the power of the President was the respect of the appointment and dismissal of the Prime Minister. The key change is that after the 19th Amendment, the Prime Minister cannot be removed by the President. By the 18th Amendment, the power of appointment to high posts and independent commissions were vested in the President. But after the 19th Amendment, the President has to either seek the approval or act on the recommendations of the Constitutional Council. Therefore, it is not correct to state that the 19th Amendment was to shift the center of power from the President to the Prime Minister. The 19th Amendment has its flaws. There are provisions which were bound to create conflict between the President and the Prime Minister, as was stated earlier. It is strange to see how these flaws escaped the attention of 225 members, most of whom were in the opposition. Therefore, the constitutional process has to go forward and draft a constitution acceptable to all sections of the people of Sri Lanka and to get over the flaws in the 19th Amendment.
Now, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna commenced its island-wide election and propaganda campaign today with the launch of the application We Can. This is the first time a political party is carrying out an e-canvassing campaign through a digital platform ahead of presidential elections. The campaign commenced at the auspicious time of 7:45 this morning. National organizer of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Basil Rajpaksha, too was seen engaging in a door-to-door campaign in Colombo today in a bid to collect data from the public via the app. For the next 2 days, every SLPP representative from all areas and districts will travel with their teams from house to house to conduct their e-canvassing through the We Can app. According to Basil Rajpaksha, the app came into effect with 78,000 logins island-wide this morning and aim to target 1.5 million households by the end of the day. Governor of the Central Province, Maitri Gunaratne, has tendered his resignation to the Presidential Secretariat. He was appointed as the Governor of Central Province on the 4th of January this year. On the 18th of January, Gunaratne was appointed a President's Council by President Maithripala Sirisena. We got more news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the first ever Colombo International Logistics Conference was held recently with the intention of showcasing the country as an investment destination beyond 2020. The event was held with the patronage of a number of foreign speakers, foreign delegates and next generation professionals.
The first ever Colombo International Logistics Conference was held in Colombo across 2 days, successfully coming to a close yesterday. During the conference, the attention of the panel was directed towards issues faced by the logistics industry.
The readiness of our people, the resistance to change, maybe because the traditional ways of working is changing or the arbitrage that you are having on the current model is going away. You need to be a lot more efficient. Then the other part of resistance comes from change in business models, because the business models itself is changing. Linked to that is the regulation. The regulations also need to keep up in terms of pace to adopt the best of the technology. If the regulations are not moving fast enough, then we will fall behind. Mobile money adoption in Sri Lanka is lower than the region. If you look at mobile money when it was introduced in 2012, Sri Lanka was one of the first countries in the region and in the world to introduce mobile money and also multi-operator mobile money platform. But since then we have not evolved enough. Regulations have to significantly move and has to adapt. But it doesn't mean that regulation has to change overnight we can always look at proportional regulation. And it is very, very important to adopt technology and rather stay behind saying the country is not ready or regulation is not ready. Lastly, I think one of the biggest impediments is having a proper ID system. ID system is kind of the foundation on which e-commerce to any other service can be delivered.
When it comes to Industrial 4.0, supply chain is the key strategic differentiator in this evolution. Companies that fail to transform their organizations from supply-driven value chains to intelligent customer-centric value chains, such companies will fail. In terms of express industry, visibility is very important.
The Indian High Commissioner for Sri Lanka, Taranjit Singh Sandhu, says Sri Lanka has carved out a niche for itself in its economic and commercial relations with India. Speaking at the 11th Annual General Meeting of the Indo-Lanka Chamber of Commerce and Industry held in Colombo yesterday, Sandhu said that if Sri Lanka Airlines is the largest foreign carrier to India, if 80% of business of Colombo port comes from India-related transshipments cargo, if Indians are the largest source market for Sri Lankan tourism, it is not just because India and Sri Lanka are neighbours, and it is because Sri Lanka has carved out a niche for herself in certain sectors. He further noted that the cornerstone of India's foreign policy, which translates to together with all, for the development of all, with the trust of all, is not just for India but also for the neighbourhood and the world at large. Now, Sri Lanka and Ethiopia are partnering with China on a trilateral South-South cooperation to promote sustainable energy solutions focusing on biogas and solar technologies in Sri Lanka and Ethiopia. Financing for the 3-year project comes from the Ministry of Commerce of China with the provision of $2 million, which will be equally shared between Ethiopia and the island nation. UNDP and the government of Ethiopia are also expected to contribute resources for the implementation of the project. Stakeholders from the 3 countries met in Addis Ababa last month for preliminary workshops organized by UNDP and government of Ethiopia. Participants representing the Ethiopian government, African business chambers and private sector organizations also explored how to draw up plans of action to overcome barriers in gaining access to energy solutions, tackle issues around sustainability in terms of production and consumption, and how to scale up on market access opportunities. Oil prices gained about 3% yesterday, a day after recording their biggest daily drop in several years on US President Donald Trump's vow to impose more tariffs on Chinese imports. For the week, crude oil benchmarks recorded a loss. Washington's new tariffs on China is due to take effect on the 1st of September, intensifying the trade war between the world's 2 top economies. Any resulting economic slowdown could hurt crude demand. Brent crude futures for October delivery settled at $61.89 a barrel, up $1.39. WTI crude futures for September delivery settled at $55.66 a barrel, rising $1.71. For the week, Brent lost about 2.7%, while WTI shed about 1.2%. We're going to move in for a very short break. See you soon. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the Russian Foreign Ministry says that the United States has made a grave mistake quitting the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Several U.S. officials have confirmed that the United States has withdrawn from the INF treaty yesterday and will test intermediate and long-range missiles in the coming months. The Russian Foreign Ministry officially announced on the same day the formal termination of the INF at the initiative of the U.S. side. The Cold War era Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty banned missiles with range of 500 to 5,500 kilometers. In a statement, Russia urged the US to take necessary steps to ensure global stability and predictability, saying failure to do so will mean that all the responsibility for escalating tensions across the world will rest with Washington. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has said he wants a new nuclear pact to be signed by both Russia and China. Trump said he had spoken to the two countries about the idea and they were very, very excited. The US withdrawal yesterday followed accusations by Washington that Russia had violated the pact by deploying a new type of cruise missile, which Moscow denies. In the meantime, when asked if the US was considering deploying new medium-range conventional weapons in Asia, now that Washington is no longer bound by the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the US Defense Secretary Mark Esper said, "Yes, I would like to," adding the US would like to deploy a capability sooner rather than later. Now, Minister of Sports Harin Fernando has approved the request made by Sri Lanka Cricket Executive Committee to grant the national team's coaching staff permission to retain their positions until the end of the New Zealand tour of Sri Lanka. The SLC made this appeal following a meeting with the minister yesterday. The minister called the national team's coaching staff to step down following a disappointing World Cup campaign this year. Now then, a security delegation of Sri Lanka Cricket is set to reach Karachi on Wednesday to decide if it is safe for the country's national team to tour Pakistan in October for a round of the ICC World Test Championship. International media quote Pakistan Cricket Board Chairman Eshan Mani as saying that the Sri Lankan delegation will visit the grounds and hotels where the teams will stay in Karachi, Lahore and Islamabad, besides meeting the board, police and security officials. He said that Sri Lanka board will make a final decision on sending its team to Pakistan for the two-test series based on the report by its security delegation. Top test teams stopped touring Pakistan after terrorists attacked the Sri Lankan team bus in Lahore in March 2009. Pakistan Cricket Board Chairman has expressed confidence the Sri Lankan board would give due consideration to PCB's request to play the ICC Test Championship matches in Pakistan. And that's it from all of us here at First 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.